Good afternoon, folks. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our business meeting. It's August 1st, 2023. The time is 2:03 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order, and in attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan, and please join us for a moment of silence. All right, if you would stand, join me in the pledge. Michael, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead. I would accept a motion to approve meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes, items 1 through 5.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. And consent calendar.
I move that we approve the consent calendar, items 6 through 18.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right, and payables.
I move that we approve the payables for July 24 through 28, 2023 in the amount of $1,063,947.58 and jury panel payments of $2,645.30.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right, motion passes. And item 20, contract update quote approval, Everbridge and our 911. Colin McCroy, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Colin McCroy, Kootenai County 911 for the record. The board approved this quote at the business meeting 2 weeks ago with Everbridge to add some features to our contract with them. There was a mistake, an error on the quote on Everbridge's part, and they wanted something changed. And so just best practice in order to get the board to sign the updated, corrected quote, which was to add that we are a GSA purchasing client, and it wasn't listed on the previous quote. So they wanted to process us as a GSA client, and they couldn't unless the quote specifically said that for GSA contracting. So this is just to correct that. Nothing changes pricing wise. It was already the correct pricing. It just didn't state it. And so we're just coming back to get the corrected quote approved and signed.
Okay, thank you. Questions, motion.
I move that we approve the contract update quote approval for Everbridge with 911.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Item 21, Spokane Point Dock Replacement Agreement, and this is with Stancraft Marine Construction and Parks and Waterways Director Snyder.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Nick Snyder for the record. Yes, before you is a contract with Stancraft Marine in the amount of $165,196 necessary for the construction of a new dock system at Spokane Point Boat Launch. And funding for the project will come from a combination of user fees, and we were awarded a Waterways Improvement Fund grant, and no general fund tax dollars will be used to pay for any portion of the project.
All right, questions, motion?
I move that we approve the Spokane Point Dock Replacement Agreement with Stancraft Marine Construction and Parks and Waterways.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item 22, IMS contract update with IMS and our Community Development Department. Director Callahan, please.
Commissioners, this would allow us to update our IMS software to do two things. We have a problem with the way the software tracks monies for road name assignments and one of our other permit processes. So this would just fix it so that we can track the money the way where it needs to go. It's programming work that needs to be done by the IMS staff.
And then is there a yearly fee upgrade as well?
No, this is a one-time fix.
Perfect, thank you. Questions, motion?
I move that we approve the IMS contract update between IMS and Community Development.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, all right, motion passes, thank you. Item 23, board approval request for the purchase of fleet vehicle in our assessor's office, and our Chief Deputy Cardinger is here, so go ahead.
Afternoon, Commissioners. Ben Crottinger, Chief Deputy Assessor for the record. So we are respectfully requesting that the Board of County Commissioners approve a request for an additional fleet vehicle to be purchased from Rabideau Motors. We were approved last week for our first vehicle on the 25th with a stated intention to find an additional vehicle. Rabideau Motors has now provided us with a second vehicle, which will complete the two vehicle purchases that was in our FY23 budget. Now, when we had originally budgeted for this was in FY 2020, I think around the $50,000 range or so. As you all know, vehicle prices have increased substantially kind of in the past few years. So this would bring us over about $4,255 over budget for it. But we tried to find a vehicle as low priced as we possibly could that still kind of met our requirements. So yeah, we're requesting that you would allow us to go over budget for this and purchase the vehicle.
Where would the funds come from?
So I have a couple of options for that. We will have some funds left over from the contract with Highland Appraisal. We actually did receive an invoice from them a week ago, and it's substantially lower than $260,000, substantially lower. So we could maybe, if approved by the board, we could pull about $4,255 from there and move it into, it would be,
Capital line item.
yeah, 90-10 it would
Okay.
be, if that's acceptable from the board.
Any other options?
We could also possibly move, we should have some extra in our witness payments, $82.51. We will have some left over from there as well, so that would be my second option.
Okay. Because I think all the money is coming from the restricted fund 46, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Questions, motion?
This is a different vehicle than what we looked at, isn't it?
Well, actually, we approved one at the $40,000 range, and now this is a $27,000 one. So this is the second one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the first one was spec'd a little higher because we needed towing. This one we don't need towing for, so we were able to drop it a lot lower.
Okay, all right. I move that we approve the request to purchase the fleet vehicle for the assessor.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, and just to clarify that you're okay with the money coming out of Fund 46, the restricted funds?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 24, yearly subscription increase at 5% instead of 7%. And this is our NeoGov and our information technology. Carrie Cole, are you on the phone?
Yes, this is Carrie from IT.
Good.
This is basically they tried to increase by 7% instead of 5% because it wasn't in our agreement that we had for our other items for NeoGov. So this is the add-on text messaging piece. So I'm trying to just get it down to the 5% so that it matches what we do with all of our other NeoGov increases.
Okay, questions, motion?
I move that we approve the yearly subscription increase at 5% instead of 7% with NeoGov with IT.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Item 25, Riverstone Transit Center Supplement Agreement Number 4 with Coffman Engineers and our RMO office. I heard Caitlin Smith on the phone. Are you handling this, or is there somebody else?
Yes.
Okay.
Caitlin Smith for the record. The supplemental agreement number 4 extends our construction administration and management services for the Phase 2 project for Riverstone Transit Center. And this is to cover the extension of landscaping, which was delayed, painting, which faces a supply chain issue causing a delay in paint delivery, and correction of unsatisfactory work detailed on our punch list.
Okay, questions, motion?
I move that we approve the Riverstone Transit Center supplemental agreement number 4 with Coffman Engineers and RMO.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion passes. Item 26, contract for services, hazard fuels treatment, 21-HFR-01 and 21-HFR-02, 40 acres, 52,000 with Majestic View Forestry, Bernhard on OEM. So, Ms. Westbrook, are you on the line?
Nope, this is Andrea for the record.
Hi, Andrea.
OEM. Hi. So we are wanting to contract for the services for our FireSmart 21 HFR. It's $52,000 with Majestic View Forestry, and and it's for our FireSmart program.
Questions, motion?
I move that we approve the contract for services for hazardous fuel treatment 21-HFR-1-01 and 21-HFR-2, 40 acres, $52,000 with Majestic View Forestry, Bernhard with the OEM.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion passes. Item 27, contract for services, hazard fuels treatment, 21 HFR 0506070809, and this is 21.7 acres, $28,210, again with Majestic View Forestry, Bernhard, and our Office of Emergency Management. Andrea?
Yep, this is Andrea for the record. This is for our FireSmart program grant number 21 HFR. This is for the second half of the project for $28,210. It was bid out, and Majestic View Forestry was the lowest bid.
Okay. Questions, motion?
I move that we approve the contract for services for hazard fuel treatment 21-HFR 0506070809 for 21.7 acres at $28,210 with Majestic View Forestry, Bernhard, and the Office of Emergency Management.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item 28, professional service agreement, Kootenai County Preservation Plan, historical context with Northwest Vernacular, Inc., and Pratt, and our RMO office, Ms. Bennett.
Michael Bennett, Resource Management Office for the record. The agreement between Kootenai County and Northwest Vernacular is for the historic context section of the Historic Preservation Plan for Kootenai County. The total agreement is for $5,500. Funding sources are $5,000 in federal funds and $500 from the Historic Preservation FY23 budget. The required match of $5,000 will be met by equivalent Historic Preservation Commission volunteer hours and RMO staff time.
Okay, questions, motion?
I'm just curious, what exactly is this for? Because I was looking at the Exhibit A for scope of work, and I couldn't quite understand it.
Historic Preservation Plan, it lays out the future of preserving the historic resources and the history of the county, and in supporting the different jurisdictions within the county that have historic societies, museums, other things, other historic preservation objectives. So being able to support them, but also as a county as a whole, being able to objectively for planning, as well as the future oral history and just the history of the county. Being able to preserve that and setting a plan for that. I think that there's been a little bit of a lack of planning in the past, and there have been projects here and there to register with the National Registry, different historic resources, but an overall plan as the county grows in being able to preserve the history and the structures and the buildings, anything historic context here in the county is important. At least that's a priority for the commission, for the Historic Preservation Commission. And this is just one piece of the plan. We're planning on doing it in stages. And if you want to see something that's kind of an example, Coeur d'Alene recently did a preservation plan for the city. And so that's a good kind of example of what it might look like in the future.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Okay, motion?
I move that we approve the professional services agreement with Kootenai County Preservation Plan, historical, context in Northwest Vernacular, Inc., Pratt, with Resource Management Office.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. And item 29, board approval request. This is certification of BOCC consent to filing design departure and administrative review application for the Justice Building expansion and our RMO office. Ms. Smith, are you covering this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Caitlin Smith for the record. The provided document is an application for design departure administrative review with the City of Coeur d'Alene for the process of gaining the city's approval of the design of the Justice Building expansion project. We are required to obtain the city's approval of the design before beginning construction. Page 3 of the application is a certification from the property owners of record that they have read and consent to the filing of the application and requires board signature. The application must be turned into the city with an application fee of $100. We propose to pay this application fee from the ARPA SLFRF Justice Building expansion budget.
All right. And then that's the actual approval of the fee is on the next item. Is that right?
No, that is a separate application.
Oh, okay.
This is for the design approval, and the second application is for a site permit.
Okay. Questions?
No questions.
All right, motion.
I move that we approve the request for the certification of the BOCC consent of filing design departure administrative review application for Justice Building expansion with RMO.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
No.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion carries. Item 30, board approval request, Justice Center expansion, City of Coeur d'Alene site development permit application and fee. Again, RMO and Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Caitlin Smith for the record. The provided document is an application for a site development permit for the Justice Building expansion scope of work described in Work Package 1, containing site demolition, excavation, rough grading, and utility work to be performed prior to beginning construction on building proper. This application must be turned into the city with an application fee of $2,951. We propose to pay this application fee from the ARPA SLFRF Justice Building expansion budget.
All right, questions, motion.
I move that we approve the request for the Justice Building expansion with the City of Coeur d'Alene site development permit application and fee and the Resource Management Office.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
No.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion passes. Item 31, grant agreement, 3-16-0010-059-2023, and this is construction contract for the AIP 059 Taxiway North, Sealcoat with Road Products, Inc., and the FAA portion is $290,656. Cash match is $24,221.33. And Ms. Seekford, are you on the line?
No, actually, it's Kim Stevenson from the airport for the record.
Hi, Kim, go ahead.
Thanks. So this is the construction contract for your signature with Road Products, Inc. They were the low bidder for this AIP project. We awarded them the bid. The AIP 59 has been awarded to us as well, and this is for Taxiways November, Golf, Hotel, and part of the public apron that will be performed with AIP 59.
Okay, questions, motion.
I move that we approve grant agreement number 3-16-0010-059-2023 for the construction contract for AIP 059 Taxiway November Sealcoat with Road Products, Inc. with the FAA contribution of $290,656 and a cash match of $24,221.33.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Item 32, grant agreement, reimbursable agreement, number AJWFNWSA 22NM005207, and this is Federal Aviation Administration FAA amount of $12,117.60, no match requirement. Ms. Stevenson, please.
Thank you. Kim Stevenson for the record. This is a reimbursable agreement for a flight check on the runway end identifier lights that are being replaced with the AIP 058 project. And it is reimbursable under that same AIP, and once the work is performed, that is available for us to get reimbursement for from the FAA.
Okay, questions, motion?
I move that we approve grant agreement and the reimbursable agreement number AJWFN WSA-22NM005207 for the Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of $12,117.60 with no match required.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Item 33, board approval request, transfer of K-9 insurance reimbursement to K-9 donation account with our Sheriff Patrol Division and Lieutenant Arts, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. Right. Thank you, Commissioners. Lieutenant Arts with the Sheriff's Office for the record. Back in January of this year, you guys approved to medically retire K-9 Deuce. For medical reasons, we were able to approach ICRIMP for the cost of the K-9, and they have since sent the county a check for the amount for the dog plus the training for the amount of $19,571.21. So I'm just requesting that those funds be transferred back to the K-9 fund.
Okay, questions, motion?
No questions. I move that we approve the request to transfer the K-9 insurance reimbursement funds to the K-9 donation account for the Sheriff's Office.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passed. Item 34, financial budget request, contingency for witness payments, prosecuting attorney's office. Dan, no, oh, there you are. Prosecutor Mortensen, please.
Good afternoon. As the board will recall, a couple months ago, this matter was before the board, and I had made the request to move the money between my A and B budgets, but I think on the spot between Brandy and the board, it was discussed that the money could come out of the contingency budget. At that meeting, only 2 of the 3 commissioners were present. And so basically, I'm just a little confused. I know I can spend the money, but as far as which budget it came out of, and how many commissioners I need to sign off on it. I just wanted to put this on the agenda and get that clarified.
Yes, since there are three of us, now we can vote on the actual contingency piece.
Thank you.
You bet. Questions, motion?
I move that we approve the budget request for contingency for wellness payments, the prosecuting attorney's office.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, and that's passed for witness payments, so
Yes.
thank you, Stan, for bringing this back.
Thank you, Board.
Okay, item 35, and now I think Ace is going to take up the next four items.
Brandy Falcon for the record. How much in contingency funds? We need to know how much.
53,000, I think the request was for?
53,500.
53,500.
Well, that's how much was in the budget for last year. What I mentioned at the time was that in order to pay all of our current witnesses, we were going to go over by 10. And then I looked at what we would need between now and October 1st, and I was asking for 80.
80 total or 80 additional?
80,000 to cover my office between now and October, or between then and October.
That's 26,500 more.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So 80,000 total.
80,000 total.
Okay.
So, yep,
Yep.
26.5.
Yep, sorry.
It's okay.
Getting the number wrong here.
Thank you.
All right. Item 35, board approval request per policy 930. This is the purchase of two DS300 pole place scanners and tabulators with supplies and associated costs. Elections Manager Asa Gray, please.
Madam Chair, thank you, Commissioners. Asa Gray for the record. And before I start on this, if I could ask you if we could do item 38 after this one, because they go together, and then the other two?
Yep.
Thank you. So before you, this is the purchase approval request because it is over $10,000 to purchase two DS300 polling place scanner and tabulators with the supplies and associated costs. What these are is, I know all of you have at one point or another seen a logic and accuracy test done at our office on our large tabulators that we use on election night. These are not those tabulators. These are a smaller tabulator and scanner that we would use at our office for early voting, which would allow us to not have to run those early voting ballots through the large tabulators on election day and would save us time in the process in getting these results out. We are requesting to purchase two of them because we always need to have a backup one in case there's any type of issue with the first one. And so we would specifically use these at our office at early voting. We don't have any plans to send them out to any polling locations or anything like that at this time.
Okay, and was this a FY24 request that we're doing early, or?
Yes, I had put it in the FY24 budget. It was removed from that budget because we do have funds available in our B budget in our election supplies due to not having an August election this fiscal year.
All right, questions, motion.
I move that we approve the request per policy 930 to purchase two DS300 pole place scanners and tabulators with supplies and associated costs for elections.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Item 38, sales order agreement, purchase two DS300 pole place scanner and tabulators with supplies and associated costs and ES&S.
And this is the actual sales order agreement that the board would sign. It does include, per direction from legal and from the county, it does include the clause about the company not being owned and will not be owned by China during the duration of this. And also, this agreement includes 1 year of the hardware and software maintenance agreement that we normally come before you each October 1st for the rest of our equipment. So it will cover us. We'll be a little bit off cycle, and I'm sure next year they'll work with us to get everything back to that October 1st date. But this is that agreement.
Okay, and then you've got money in the FY24 budget to.
I do have money in the FY. This one will because this will go almost all the way through there in coverage, and it is only a $600 yearly cost. I did not get the other like $100 that it would be in the budget for this specific item for next year, but I believe that we'll have flexibility to cover that.
All right, questions, motion.
I move that we approve the sales order agreement for the purchase of 2 DS300 pole place scanner and tabulators with supplies and associated costs for the election systems and software for the elections office.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion passes. Item 36, EVS 6.3.0.0 Reporting Standard Standalone System Purchase Order with election system and software in our elections department. Manager Gray, please.
I apologize. Could we do item 37 first?
Sure.
Because it's the board approval request to spend the money first.
Okay. All right, item 37, board approval and request to purchase the EVS 6.3.0.0 election reporting system with associated upgrades. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is the purchase approval request to purchase a new election night reporting system for our results. This is the system that we take the results from the tabulators. It is not connected to the internet. We put them into this system and use it to see the results before we put them live on a live computer to the public. This system is the newest one that has been, certified by the Secretary of State's office. It is recommended we move to this system because it has additional functionality and features that our current one does not have, specifically with the ability for duplication boards. It should, the hope is that it will all but eliminate our need to have the full-on dupe boards that we have with ballots going back to the tabulators, because we can actually have a dupe board working with this system to adjudicate those ballots in real time, instead of having to copy them. So the system itself is $5,485. However, moving to this system requires upgrades to each of our express vote ballot marking machines that we use for ADA compliance at every polling location in federal elections. And the total cost, because we have 60 of those machines, is $7,500 for those upgrades, bringing the total request for this system and the upgrades to $12,985. I will mention now, before we get to the other agreement, that the annual cost for this system, so our current system cost us last year $4,210 in annual software costs. We just actually got the bill today for what it's going up to with inflation for the current system, which will be $4,410. This new one will be, from the quote we had gotten earlier this year, is higher. It is sitting at $6,820 per year. I did budget the difference between last year's and that quote. However, with inflation, I expect that that will again be a few $100s short of what I budgeted, but I believe our B budget next year will have the ability to absorb that.
All right, questions, motion.
I move that we approve the request for purchase of the EVS 6.3.0.0 election reporting system with associated upgrades for elections.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Now back to item 36, the EVS 6.3.0.0 Reporting Standard Standalone System Purchase Order.
And Commissioners, this is the actual purchase order for the EVS system that would spend that money and have them come out and do the upgrades and bring the system in for us.
Okay, questions, motion.
I move that we approve the EVS 6.3.0.0 Reporting Standard Standalone System Purchase Order for the election systems and software.
Second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes, and I'm going to go ahead and skip 39 to go to 40 and 41 because we can handle those together. Then Mr. Gray can go back to his office. Item 40 and 41, Resolution 2023-64 and 65, which is classify documents and destroy or delete documents for the Elections Office.
Thank you, Commissioners. These resolutions are to classify and destroy records that have passed their required retention time in Idaho Code 34-217. There's a variety of different election records, but these are all standard things we come before you multiple times a year typically to destroy. Different items have to be held 1 to 5 years or 60 days after challenge periods for an election, just depending on what type of records they are.
Questions, motion?
I move that we approve Resolution 2023-64 to classify documents and Resolution 2023-65 to delete documents for elections.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Item 39, Ordinance 584, and this is a 6-county boundary line change, and our BOCC division. Mr. Ellsbury, if you'd like to come forward. We have the Latah County Surveyor here who has been working tirelessly for many years now on this project. And we've had this in front of the BOCC no less than 2 times. So this is the official ordinance that we can go ahead and handle. So I'm not sure if there's going to be questions from the board. Mr. Ellsbury's here to answer them if you have any.
No, I'm familiar with the issue and
Okay. Bill?
so.
No.
Okay. Well, it looks like you're getting off easy today. No questions for you. So you've done a good job informing us, and we're ready to make this decision. So is there a motion?
I move that we approve Ordinance 584, the 6-county boundary line change for the BOCC.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, and now item 42 is our status update. And as far as the facilities expansion, permits have been approved to be filed with the city, and we are still going to have another update this month with Boughton and LCA. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, and impact fees.
Oh, we're getting a little confusion, I think, with the Post Falls mayor and the Raptor mayors. This is not a done deal yet.
Okay.
What, I saw the article. What is
Did you read
this?
the letter?
The one that we sent?
No, the one that they sent us.
I don't recall seeing that. Did they email that to us or?
I'll forward it to you.
Okay.
I thought you were on there, so.
I could very well have been.
Anyway, it's gonna take a little longer than we thought.
I still think we should have that meeting
Well,
with them.
read their letter.
All right. Well, unfortunately, my computer needs to be restarted because it's not recognizing anything. So as soon as I get this done, I will
That's fine.
send that over to you. Yeah, we got it last week, and it's a joint
Late last-
letter
Yeah.
from them. So we will get that to you, but essentially it's, yeah.
And I forwarded that to Ann Westcott right away. And she took time out of her vacation to respond to it in detail. And,
I have not seen Ann's response, I
Okay.
don't think. So, and yes, I agree that we can continue on with trying to get the mayors together to
Yeah.
discuss this issue.
Okay.
So there's 2, I think we're waiting for responses. There's 2 times that we have set aside this month to meet with them. So hopefully we can get that scheduled. All right, and gel pods.
shell pods.
Forgive me, Commissioners. Under Sheriff Brett Nelson, on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, if I can clarify any questions, but at the point I last spoke to Captain Heil, who oversees our jail bureau, they were in discussions with, I believe it was RMO, and when he, through the suggestions of our staff, had given some other options to, I believe, the planners in regards to just specifications. But it's an ongoing process. There is dialogue going back and forth.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions for Under Sheriff?
Nope.
All right, our last and final item, number 43, Sheriff's Office moved to Kootenai North. There is an executive session, but I am not sure if we need to go into an executive session at this point. So this is a lovely conversation to have. Who wants to start?
I guess my question is, why are we having this conversation now? So far into this process. Because my initial conversations were that this has been approved and reviewed beforehand, recognizing that the county seat is where the county services are supposed to be. And so it was just recognized that this potential move, which even to go back further, I still question sometimes, the purchase of a building that's outside of the county seat for county services. But nonetheless, that, we're having this conversation now as opposed to before we started spending money looking at this move.
So this plan was brought to us by the Sheriff's Department, so I'm not sure that I can answer any of your questions at this point. We have a lot of services that are outside the county seat, and I know that discussing things in the past, it was more along the lines of the actual elected official had not have an office in the county seat, but through a further review by legal, they stated that the actual services had to be provided within the county seat. So that's where we're at here.
Well, was that all services or just the majority of the services?
That's where we'd probably go into executive session to ask legal to clarify their legal opinion. Did you?
May I address something first off? Under Sheriff Nelson, for the record, in late January, when this was first brought to my attention by Commissioner Duncan asking if we were interested in the building, at that point, I instructed one of my lieutenants, Lieutenant Klinkefus, to put a plan together for us to potentially move up there and see what the issues were. All of our meetings to that point were open in this with legal present, so that the issue wasn't brought forward, as you stated, Commissioner Matari, until recently. My only concern is understanding the statute to compromise, if you will, a middle ground where we have the ability or option to place necessary personnel at the building that we will vacate, which is presently occupied by our detective division, to keep, if you will, a satellite option there for residents within the county where the majority of our personnel will be relocated to that Kootenai Electric building. Understanding that the sheriff by statute has to maintain an office there too, that was already taken into consideration. Again, being the 11th hour, we're sort of taken back by the fact that we've already put some $20,000+ into plans to build or develop the existing infrastructure within the Kootenai Electric building. Is somewhat puzzling at this point.
So I guess I would say, so where do we go from here? So do we want to consider maintaining a satellite office? Essentially, it's a satellite office then where the existing sheriff's is and moving everything else out there. Or if we choose not to do that, we also have the option of moving marine and search and rescue and some other services too out there as well. So I guess my question would be, how much do you want to move all of operations out there? And if you do, then, what does the satellite office look like? Is there enough employees to cover both locations?
Ideally, Robert Norris, Sheriff, ideally, we would prefer to have as many units under one roof. We have some issues with some of our other units not being under the same campus. So we would like to make an effort to try to have as many units as possible under one area. I'm wondering, Dave, did this come up when it was decided to put a satellite office for driver's license in Post Falls?
Commissioners, I don't, what do you want me to do here? I've given advice to the board. If you want to go into a 1D executive and you agree to have the sheriff in that, you waive the privilege. But
So,
I'm more than willing to sort of talk about advice and that sort of thing. But I think we should do it in executive session.
yeah, well, I probably can answer that question anyway. It's a satellite office, so the assessor remains here, and we have a functioning office in the county seat for motor vehicle licensing.
Yeah, we're,
So,
I just asked for some back history on that. I didn't.
sure.
And if I may also, I know in our discussion, we talked about records and CCWs specifically. Part of this plan of the reorganization or relocation of the sheriff's operations side was that CCWs were going to be relocated to the driver's license locations because of ability to do so through the QLIS app and things of that nature. So that was part of our prospective relocation and services being reallocated throughout the county.
Okay, so
Just
this,
so you know, that's the first time I've ever heard of any of that.
Sure.
About CCWs and QLS. I've never heard of any of that to this day.
And in all honesty, this was the first I'd heard about it last Friday in our conversation at 5:30 about this being an issue. So again, there are a lot of things that are being worked out with the general consensus of us relocating up there that was first brought to my attention in January.
so it sounds like we're closer than we think. It
I
sounds
think the
like
two
we're gonna
sides
be
are
able to
quite
do it.
close. I think it's, if you will, the details are to be worked out, but I think we can definitely make it work for both the constituents within the county and for the sheriff's office and its members, especially in taking consideration the ability for us to, one, as the sheriff spoke to, reallocate all of our people under one building, maintain the longevity of our outdoor equipment by being placed indoors throughout the inclement weather.
And I would agree. That's what I've tried to do with this Justice Center expansion, to get the prosecutor's office under one floor. The other option we have too would be a declaratory judgment action. We could bring this issue to the judges and say, hey, we'd like to do this. What say you? Because I think that we are complying with the intent of the law, the spirit of the law. It's just the letter of the law requires this. I would just want to make sure that it's not taxing the sheriff's department to now have this other, satellite office remain here and not be able to staff it. So,
Well, based on the internal plans that we had, the building that's now occupied by our detective division was going to be occupied by a certain element of the sheriff's office already, because we're going to keep them in relative proximity to the jail for reasons. That being said, that area is large enough where we could allocate a space for the sheriff to maintain an office there, in addition to whatever else we need. But the simple, if you will, approach of having a rotational spot for whether it be a records personnel or a civil personnel to be there for a week or a month or whatever, there'll be a foothold within the county, that being the county seat, of Coeur d'Alene, to ensure that our services are in fact being provided within the county seat.
okay. I have no issues with continuing with the move.
No, I think that the idea here is for there to be services in the county seat, not every person located in the county seat. And so as long as the services, or at least the large majority of them, are being performed in the county seat, I don't see any problem at this point with the move.
Okay. So the only other question I would ask is if legal would still like to meet with the board to consider anything else that we've not brought up right now.
It's really up to the board. I haven't heard the entire proposal. Indeed, and can I just go back and explain for a moment, sort of address Commissioner Matari's original question? I have never been asked for an opinion on this issue. I offered, after a board meeting back in March 21st, when this discussion, I don't know if it was the first time it was ever discussed, but it was, I think, early on. After that meeting, or maybe during the meeting, I sent a short email just alerting the board to the relevant statute 31-2009 about the county seat requirement. And I didn't hear anything back from any commissioners about that. So it was, again, recently, the second email went out on July 25th, after I became aware for the first time that it was more than a discussion, it was a plan to actually relocate a substantial portion of the sheriff's office and all of its operations, or at least most of its operations, other than the jail, out to the Kootenai Electric Building. It was actually not even in a board meeting I learned that, it was in a meeting with someone else. So I felt it was probably a good idea to reiterate that statutory requirement and add a little bit of commentary to it. So that was the timeline of my personal involvement, and to my knowledge, nobody else in my office has offered any opinions on this either, or been asked for any opinions. I believe Sheriff Norris and Darren Murphy have had a few discussions, but I don't really know what those were about because I wasn't part of that. So if the board wants some more or additional advice, I guess I need to know more about the plan, what part of the operation, parts of the operation would be moved, what would be retained, and just, I would need to know details. I haven't discussed any of this with Sheriff Norris personally, so I couldn't really begin to analyze exactly what legal ramifications would be without knowing more.
Okay, can you send me that March 21st email?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? Because I think at this point, getting back with the facilities working group, working with Lieutenant Klinkenfuss to say, you know, exactly what that reorganization is, because I actually, if I've heard about the CCWs going to driver's license, it's not something that was, you know, put in my notes. So I still think we're in a good spot right now. I think we're moving forward nicely. So I think once we find out, get the details that you mentioned from last Friday, then we can set it before the legal and they can opine on what, you know, how much of the operations.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
That we do go into executive session, because all the parties are here.
Okay.
And I think it will save time and avoid future meetings, at least if everyone can get on a baseline here. Because I do think that because the sheriff, the way I understood it is the sheriff's office had spoken with council about this beforehand, but I realized there was a disconnect with the BOCC's council on this. So it's probably a good time to kind of get all the parties talking while we're in the room.
I would take a motion.
I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061D.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right. We're in executive session. It is 3:15. Is there a motion?
I move that we exit executive session 1D with staff to proceed as discussed.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Public comment? Hearing none. 3:16. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.